Parth and Pratham show.
I think fear and understanding go hand in hand, and the more training you have on a specific topic, the more you're able to understand it more than the average person's.
Up next on the Parth and Pratham show.
Hi, Matt. So we just want a brief introduction on yourself. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what are some of your hobbies?
Some of my hobbies are, now that I have children, I spend a lot of time playing with them. I've got a 4-year-old daughter and a 18-month-old boy. When I'm not playing with them, I like riding my road bike and doing some woodworking.
That's awesome.
Give us a brief background on your education. Where did you go to high school and or college?
I went to Moreau High School in Hayward, and then I went to Chabot College and Butte College, Chabot and Hayward, and Butte up in Chico for fire science to get a 2-year degree in fire science technology.
So you currently work at the fire department. How many employees do you have working there?
The Livermore Pleasanton Fire Department has 10 stations, 5 in Livermore and 5 in Pleasanton. We have 8 engines, 2 trucks staffed every day, and 1 battalion chief that oversees all of the operations for each shift. We run 3 platoons at A, B, and C shift. And when we come to work, we work for 2 days straight. So we work 48 hours straight. Obviously, if there's no calls at night, we're able to sleep, but we work the 2-4 shift with that to fill all of those holes and all of those positions. We run a department that has just over 100 uniform personnel, and then we have some additional office staff that helps keep everything running.
Wow.
Our administration has 1 chief officer, 2 assistant chiefs, and then we have 4 battalion chiefs. Like I said, one of those is on A, B, and C shift, and then the 4th battalion chief handles all of our training division.
So you talked about 48 hours. That is a lot of just at the station. That's crazy, you know. So there's on a lot of on-screen portrayals, firemen and police officers are said to have a rivalry. Is this just a Hollywood exaggeration, or is this the real deal?
Yeah, there's a little bit of fun banter between the 2 agencies. Obviously, both are here to serve the public, but we like to have fun with each other for sure. I think Hollywood a lot of times takes things to the extreme, but there's a lot of just good banter that goes back and forth, but no harm, no foul.
That's awesome.
It's great to be able to work here in Livermore Pleasanton. We're a combined department that works in both cities, so we're able to work both with the Pleasanton PD and Livermore PD, and I'd say with both agencies, everyone has a great working relationship. So
Absolutely. And so let's turn to maybe your childhood. When you were a kid, did you always think you would be a firefighter?
Growing up, I was interested in construction and work trucks. It wasn't until high school there was a large fire. I grew up in Castro Valley. There was a large fire in Lake Chabot, and I went down to watch that fire. And it was during that fire that the fire service really sparked my interest. From there, I joined the Fremont Fire Explorers, and that's a program that allowed me to get involved during high school in a fire program after school. From there, I worked for CAL FIRE for a number of seasons, working as a seasonal, fighting the wildland fires all over the state of California. And then it was after that I got hired here in Livermore Pleasanton.
So you talked about how just seeing actual fire, like big fire in real life, kind of inspired you to go into the pathway of fire, of being a fireman. Can you elaborate more on like what inspired you specifically to get into public service, and what's the best part of being in public service or being a fireman?
Yeah, seeing that fire, definitely sparked my interest. But it's the everyday ability to help someone and actually make a difference, and you're able to see your good work, you know, instantaneously. So being able to help people in the community and abroad, uh, just being able to make a change for the positive. It's one of those careers where you're a firefighter both on and off duty. For 10 years, I assisted in our department running our firefighter foundation, where we were able to raise just about $500,000 in 10 years to be able to help injured and fallen firefighters, burn victims, and local charities. So our job just isn't the 48 hours of shift work. It's also being involved in the community and helping out, those in need in the community.
Yeah, so speaking about just the more than 48-hour commitment, what's your busiest day of as a firefighter been like? Have you what's the most fires you've had to fight in a single shift?
Well, in the state of California, we participate in the Master Mutual Aid. So we'll go out and assist CAL FIRE in the Forest Service on large wildfires that you see on TV. Honestly, some of the hardest days are when you're helping out on those large fires. You'll be working, a 24-hour shift, and you can conceivably be on a hot flank or the head of the fire where you're working extremely hard for those full 24 hours. And it ends up being a 30-hour day by the time you get to and from the fire and back to an area where you can get some rest before you do that again.
So have there been days where you went without sleep?
Oh yeah, there's been a few days here in the department when it gets very busy, or a fire in the middle of the night, and then when we're assisting in the mutual aid system, there's been a number of days where you work a full 24-hour shift out on the fire line, and obviously around here in the city, when we get a fire that starts in the evening and then you work through the whole night, or on days where it's very stormy and things like that, we tend to get a lot of calls with wires down, trees down, just people in need. So some of those days in the middle of winter can be extremely tough as well.
And so you're talking about this mutual aid system where like different fire departments in California go to assist when there's bigger fires, right? And so just in California, summer wildfires are a huge thing. I remember last year, there were like 2 wildfires that happened right in front of my house. And so, do you want to inform the audience like what conditions lead to these wildfires, and how does the fire department, like what steps do they take to actually stop them from getting out of control?
Yeah, so living in California, we're in a Mediterranean climate. So where we are, oftentimes, if you don't mind, I'll just take us back in history. Hundreds of years ago, the Indians would do broadcast burning and reduce the fuels across the state. As we started, settling in the state, logging was of paramount importance at the turn of the century. Now, most of that logging has been limited or shut down completely. So our forests are very dense with vegetation. That being said, the prescribed burning that used to take place has been very limited. So the volumes of fuel in the state of California has skyrocketed, and we call that tons per acre as far as how much vegetation, whether it be grass, brush, or trees. That's compounded the problem. In addition to that, we've had, you know, a slight change where even 1 or 2 degree temperature increase over time has created drying of the fuels and just more catastrophic fire seasons. If you take all of that together, historically our rainy season, our summers are becoming longer. If you take days from rain, so a perfect example would be the campfire in Paradise that happened. If you look at how many days since rain, Butte County had never gone that long without rain until that season. That being said, we're also building our homes in more rural areas, intermixed into the wildland, which is creating a number of challenges for firefighters. Areas where we used to have fires and be able to contain them without any worry of protecting homes, we now have to go into an area and protect homes as well as doing firefighting. So if you take a look at that whole picture, we're sending a lot more resources to fires to be able to not just put out the fire, but also save high value resources such as houses and power line infrastructure and things like that. To circle back around, I guess in short, the buildup of fuels and the dryness in the state of California has led to these catastrophic wildfires that until we're able to do large scale fuel reduction or fuel modification through thinning of the fuels, prescribed fire, using goats, manual thinning with hand crews, or using machines such as there's a machine that's a masticator. It's basically like a wood chipper. Being able to reduce those fuels is what it's going to take to lessen the wildfire threat in the state of California. And honestly, at the rate we're going, it's going to get worse before it gets better, because there's so many acres that need to be treated that we're not able to keep up with that thinning right now. And so it's going to take probably 5 to 10 years before we're able to turn the tide and get ahead of the dangerous wildfires.
Yeah, and I like what you said there about making like actual like physical changes to the climate around us. I think you talked about goats and stuff, and just in Dublin where we live, on some of the mountains where there have been fires before, I remember seeing goats and being like, "What? Why are there goats there?" And so just the more I read about fires and fire reduction, I understand that just thinning fuels, like you talked about, is extremely important. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, one thing people can do to help us help them in areas where high wildfire threat zones or in the rural wildland urban interface is to clear around their homes. So defensible space is one of the biggest things that allows us to help the public. So by clearing the vegetation around their home, and then doing that incrementally out in what we call our zones. So clearing everything directly around the house 5 to 10 feet, making sure there's no dead leaves or dead vegetation, and then clearing any unwanted vegetation out 30 to 100 feet, depending on the slope of the home. Just gives us that fighting chance to be able to save the home if there was a destructive wildfire.
I agree. I was in a science class last year where we studied like forests, and we learned that all of the underbrush kind of adds fuel to the fire. So maintaining is a good strategy that people can use. Are there any other maybe just general fire tips you have to people? Like, I know Independence Day is a big day for you in terms of people are accidentally setting fires. So is there any tips you have that people can follow?
Yeah, as far as day-to-day home fire safety, we highly recommend that every living room or every living space, so every bedroom, has a smoke detector. as well as making sure that you have a CO detector in your house. Having a fire extinguisher in your home is a good idea, and being understanding how to use it. And then for families out there to develop an exit plan for the family. So an exit plan with a meeting place outside the home. So if the home ever caught fire, that everyone, including children or grandparents, knew how they'd be exiting their home and where they'd be meeting. Because you may go in and out your door, but if you live on a single story, there's actually two ways out of your room if you have a window. So your door may be blocked by fire, but if utilizing your window as a secondary means of egress, and then just having a meeting place outside the home if your home ever were to catch fire.
So shifting gears, in the current just time, we're in a pandemic. Social distancing protocols are in order, and we have to basically remain safe so we don't transmit germs. And so, is there anything that the social distancing protocols and COVID-19 has changed in the job of firefighting?
Yes, yeah. We have masks that we wear whenever we're outside of our single room. So when we're riding the fire engine on calls, we wear protective masks, as well as glasses, and we wear protective gloves on medical aids. So we definitely, as far as our department, we're not doing as much multi-company training. So we're just acting where a few months ago, prior to this, we get together every weekend with a number of different apparatus and do training. We've limited that to just training in amongst the companies themselves. So at each station, there's either 3 or 4 firefighters, and we work and act as a single unit. So we essentially do our training more singularly as just a unit than we do in group settings. We also make sure that we wash and wipe down our hands and equipment regularly after every call. And just once a week, we use a heavy decontamination that we clean all of our stations with. So every week we spray all of our stations, because for us, there's 3 shifts. So there's an A, B, and a C shift. So every 2 days, there's a different group of people working in the station, and we make sure that we wipe down and clean the station in between the shifts, and then do the deep cleaning once a week. Also, just making sure that we keep our masks on at all times, unless we're eating or in our room.
Absolutely. That makes sense. You're taking the adequate safety protocols to protect yourselves to help protect others. So it's like a nice line of defense. So you're a firefighter, and we asked our audience to come up with questions, and one they came up with was the fear of running into a burning building. Is it strange running into a building while everyone else is running out? Like, how do you mentally deal with that?
Yeah, I think it's what we train for. So I think fear and understanding go hand in hand. And the more training you have on a specific topic, the more you're able to understand it more than the average person. So a good example would be a PG&E or a power lineman, understands power very well, but the average homeowner would be scared to work on the power lines, but PG&E or the power workers just do that. We do a lot of training on fire behavior and how to read certain smokes and what that smoke means when it's coming out of a house, whether it's pressurized or wispy, whether it's a certain color, dark black or gray. All of those indicators mean something to us. So our training although it doesn't give you every situation, it gives you a good, we call it the slide tray to rely on to understand understand more than the average person what's going on. Not to say that we have a crystal ball or anything like that, but one thing in our profession, we continually train. So at least once a year, we try and do live fire training in our department to get us in situations so that we're able to see the fire behavior and see different scenarios, so that when we're put into the situation, we have a little bit of we have the training experience to rely back on. So we try and continually keep up on our skills through physical training, and then we have a number of online trainings that we do every year to stay current, and that all helps to build our slide tray of lessening the fear and increasing the understanding of what's going on and what that fire is doing in the house. One thing that has occurred over the last 100 years is products in the house used to be made from wood and ordinary combustibles, and we're seeing a lot more plastics and things along those lines, which are speeding up the fire behavior and the fire effects in homes. So we're seeing fire growth where we used to see a fire double, in 4 or 5 minutes time. We're now seeing it double in under a minute or even 30 seconds time. So that fire growth in structures, because of the plastics and things like that, are happening at a much more rapid than they were in the past. Also, homes are built much more efficient for energy saving, and that too is keeping a lot of the heat and smoke and gases inside the compartment, which is therefore allowing that heat to refract back down on the room and causing flashover, which is complete combustion of a room much faster. So it's something that we continually have to evaluate and study to stay current.
So there's a lot of my peers who don't know what they're gonna do when they grow up. And so say they want to pursue firefighting, is there any advice that you can give them that can kind of help them find the path that they want to go to, excuse me.
Yeah, so here in the Bay Area, there's a number of Fire Explorer programs that can get people started off and give them a head start. The unfortunate thing is, as we discussed earlier with COVID, we have both a Fire Explorer program and a Reserve Fire program, but both are currently just on hold because we don't want to expose people to unnecessary risks. That being said, I know locally here, Fremont has a Fire Explorer program. As I said, we do. A number of other agencies have reserve or programs like that. To reach out to your local fire department and see what type of program they have and get started. That'll definitely give you a good, a good starting point, especially during high school. Locally here, we have 2 great community colleges, Las Positas right here in Livermore, and Chabot and Hayward, that offer great fire service technology programs that are right here in our backyard to be able to give you at least a 2-year degree in fire service technology. Also, there's a number of paramedic programs here in the Bay Area, with medical calls being roughly 85% of our calls in the city. Becoming a paramedic is very important to be able to serve the community and be well-rounded in the skill of not just firefighting, but EMS and emergency medicine.
Absolutely. Those are some great suggestions. This is just our final question really quickly. How can the public get involved? Do you maybe have like any community safety classes that you lead to help the public be engaged?
Yeah, so here in Livermore Pleasanton, we offer CERT, Community Emergency Response Teams, and people can get involved. again, not to harp on the COVID-19 thing, but with COVID-19, we're not necessarily having any active classes, but we normally, at least twice a year, offer the CERT classes. It would be something that you go to the Livermore Pleasanton Fire Department website to find out more information. But once we're able to get through this COVID-19, that's a great way to get involved. And then those teams would be utilized in a large natural disaster or just in day-to-day operations. They're able to give you a good idea of, basic first aid and things like that. Also, a number of places offer CPR classes. That would be something to be able to, it's a skill that can save a life or, change the outcome of a life. So being involved or taking a CPR class in your local community or through the Red Cross would be very good. And then just to circle back around, like we said, families just creating an exit strategies or exit drills in the home so that the entire family knows how to get out of their house if there was a fire. One last thing would be just to be situationally aware of what's going on. So when a storm's coming, be prepared prepare your house, make sure your trees are trimmed, any weakened trees that you're able to take those limbs down before the storm comes. And then flip side, in the summertime or, just before the summer, make sure your yards are clear of flammable vegetation. If you have weeds and things like that, that they're all cleaned up, and just being aware. One thing, as we're getting into the peak of summer, is we often have red flag days when the wind and relative humidity get very low, and we get north winds here in the Bay Area. Just being aware on those days to be cognizant that there could be a rapidly spreading fire in our community. Just because something hasn't happened here doesn't mean it won't happen. And with the Oakland Hills close by, there's been a number of fires. If you go back to the firestorm in the 90s, and then you can go back to the 1920s when there was another large fire, something like that isn't out of the realm of possibility of happening again. So just being aware on red flag days to have a heightened awareness that there could be a large, rapidly spreading fire that does massive destruction in the community.
Yeah, you're right. So not everyone can become a firefighter. Well, they can if they want to, but everyone can make a difference in saving a life or taking CPR or taking these essential courses to actually be able to better help themselves and others in their community. Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you so much for being on our show. We really appreciate it. It was a great episode and we enjoyed talking to you. Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity. I had a lot of fun.
Of course, yeah.